Hey family, hey, what's up family? Family, what's up? This is Chief Kalinago, and I am keeping my promise. Like I said, I was going to do another video, another live video around 4 p.m. and here I am. I'm feeling good. Let me just make sure my sound is good. That will give some of you guys some time to log in. So let me make sure I'm good. I have to give me a second, please. Give me a second while I get this together. In this video, we're going to talk about being, going back to who you truly are. And it's important that we as a people go back to our roots. It's very, very important. So we're going to talk about that. I know some people have some questions about, or some concern about using the word aboriginal, but we're going to talk about that. So I'm going to give you guys a moment to get on the live feed. All right. So let me just hang in there for a second while I myself try to get my sound together, because I'm not sure if I'm hearing myself. So I got to get this together. All right, cool. Okay, where we at? I think I'm live. I think I am. Hopefully I am. All righty, I'm not seeing anything. Okay. All right, it says I'm live, but I'm not getting it. What's going on? What's going on here? What's going on here? Wow. Okay. All right, guys, I need some help here now. I need to know if we are live. Okay, I think we are. All right, there we go. I think we live. 1, 2. I think we live. I think we live. I think we are live, right? All right, guys. Okay, beautiful. All righty, so we live. All right, so I'm not gonna wait too long and just sit around. I'll give you guys, hopefully you'll catch the conversation while while we're waiting for a few people to come on. But while we are doing that, giving some people a chance to log in, the purpose of this video is to really let you see the significance and the importance of going back to your roots, going back to who you truly are, okay, as the indigenous peoples of the Americas. Now, if by now you are not convinced or you don't know that you are indigenous to the Americas, then I suggest that you do some research. Now, I'm going to give you some clues and some steps as to how you could start looking into your family history. All right. Disclaimer first before I even proceed. I'm doing this video and I'm reaching out to indigenous people. Okay, whether you may be indigenous to the Americas or indigenous around the world. And the reason why I'm making the disclaimer is a lot of people don't realize, the risk that people such as myself, we take. We put our livelihood at risk. We put our life at risk bringing certain information. And you have to know how serious that is. But because we know that this is something that needs to be done and somebody has to do it. Hey, what's up, fam? Hood Shy, all right? It says, if we see this, say what's good. Yeah, I see you. What's good, fam? All right. So I didn't lose my train of thought. Let me just go back to what I was saying. The reason why it's important to make a disclaimer is because what people don't realize is they are property of another nation. Okay? They are property of a nation that has incorporated itself. All right. So therefore, you don't belong to yourself. Even your children don't belong to you. I'll explain that in a minute. But I am making the disclaimer to show that I am speaking and reaching out to indigenous people. Why? Because I don't want it to come off as if I'm soliciting the citizens of the United States. So family, I want you to see how serious this is. Okay, this is very serious business. The United States, like any other country or nation, they have their citizens. And for people to, start talking and telling you, well, you shouldn't be a citizen of this and a citizen of that, it's literally, you are asking for war. You feel me? You are asking for war because you guys are their citizens. So I have to be very mindful when I speak that kind of verbiage or language, speaking or talking to indigenous people in terms of getting back their identity. And a lot of times people hit me up and ask me and say, well, Chief, what can I do? What do I need to do? And I try to give them as much information as I can. But remember, family, you have to keep in mind, when you are still under the jurisdiction of a country, that means you are their citizens. It's only so much somebody could tell you. First, you have to acknowledge that you are indigenous. Now, with that being said, what makes you indigenous to the Americas? It's your blood, your bloodline, okay? Stories from your great-grandmother, great-grandfather, going back from into generations. That's what makes you indigenous to any land. It's your blood. All right. So when these people, these people, they always put you on notice as their citizens. Whatever they do, they have to put you on notice. Now, what's a form of notice? Notice could be a movie, newspapers, social media, any form of notice that's public. And what they do is, before they do anything to their citizens, they have to put them on notice. So therefore, when things happen, you cannot say you didn't know. You cannot say you didn't know. It's the same thing. It's a relationship. It's a communication. So when you, as the indigenous people of the Americas, are ready to step up, you have to put them on notice. Now, let us not get putting them on notice confused with asking them. You are not asking anybody for permission. You are telling them, this is who I am. Now, I'm going to speak for me, per se. Again, I could speak for myself, so you read between the lines, because again, I don't want to come across as if I'm soliciting the citizens of the United States. All right? Now, for me, even if they were to classify me as Black or African American, I know that's not who I am. So therefore, I have to let them know that I am indigenous. Let them know that I am what they call the American Indian. Before the colonizers came, or when the colonizers came, I was already here. So now they're not going to know who you are unless you tell them. You see, because they have already misclassified you. So they already gave you a different identity. It's not that they don't know who you are, but they have made you something else. So now it's your responsibility. You know what I mean? It's your responsibility. Give me 1 second. Let me just. All right. So now it is your responsibility to tell them who you are. Okay. And that's putting them on notice. So I just wanted to get that clear. But again, I am doing this video solely for the indigenous peoples around the world, and especially the indigenous peoples of the Americas. Why? Because the indigenous peoples of the Americas are the most disenfranchised. And there's a reason for that. Okay. Because we are the ones that the world have always looked up to. So if they could keep us dummified, out of our proper identity, keep us lost, then guess what? The world that follows will be lost as well. All right. So you have to know what that means. Now, there's a difference between a native, a naturalized citizen, and someone that's considered an aborigine. And I'm going to break that down for you. All right. The aborigines are the people, meaning that the original people, the original inhabitants of the land. Now, somebody said in a post that the prior video I did to this, they said that being an aborigine, was considered a disrespect to native people. Now, in a sense, you could say yes, And in a sense, you could say no. It all depends on who you call the native, because native people are not aborigines. Okay, so if we go again, look at the etymology of the word aborigine, it means, okay, from the beginning, the source, birth. All right, so literally that's what it's saying. You are the original people. And again, if you look at the definition of American in Noah's Webster's English Dictionary, it tells you that the definition of American is the copper skinned people that was found in the Americas before the colonizers came. All right, the Aborigines. And now the term is being applied to the descendants of the Europeans. So literally, again, they took your place. So just know that you are the original Aborigine. Even Malcolm X told you that when he found out that he was, because he went to Africa, he went to Ireland. They were like, listen, bro, you're not from Africa. He came back and found out he was an Aborigine. And you know what happened after that. Now, a native, anybody could be a native. A native is just somebody who was born in a certain landmass. So anybody could be a native. All right. So I could see why natives could take the word aborigine or aboriginal as a form of disrespect, because in a sense, it's telling them that they're not in place. It's telling them that they're not the original. All right. So let's just get that clear. All right. Now, our ancestors who were already here were indigenous to the Americas. So we had laws, we had governments, we had structures, we had all those, we had constitutions, we had all those things in place. Now, when the colonizers came, all right, they fought us, you know, we fought to the death, but they had bigger weaponry. So you know what? They won. It is what it is. Right now, we got work to do. They took what's called our constitution and they made a shadow constitution, okay, which gave them the right to change your identity. So they changed your identity and made you basically homeless or illegal in your own land. Now, what they did was when they created what's called the United States of America, and again, the United States of America is a country in the continent of America. It's not America. It's a country in America. So they created the United States of America and told our ancestors that they are foreigners in their own land. They are exiled in their own land. So they had to basically become citizens again. Okay, for those who didn't want to be citizens and didn't want to deal with the hassle, they sent a lot of them to the African continent. That's why the colony of Liberia started off with what's called African Americans. Sierra Leone, certain places in Africa as well, in West Africa, okay? So they told them that we're gonna make y'all citizens, okay, for certain privileges. So literally, our ancestors had a choice to live in torment and not have a peace of mind in their own land, or they were forced to become citizens so that they could feel like, you know what, they are human, basically. But with that came giving up your creator given rights. And now you were subjected to the privileges of the United States of America. I hope that's making sense thus far. All right. Your land, but now a trust was created. Now, if you look at their dollar bill, it says, "In God we trust." The question is, what is God and what God they're talking about? They're talking about them. The trust is just something that was set up because you cannot take care of yourself. Your land is in a trust, but the land that's in the trust is for the original children of the land. But the original children of the land cannot make any moves to get their land because they are not in their proper persona. I hope that makes sense. So you see, that is why it's important to them to keep changing your identity. Because let me give you another example. All right, this is my phone, right? If my name is attached to my phone from the Gideon, Chief Kalinago, right? And somebody came and took my phone, all right? But the only way they could claim this phone is by changing my name. So hence, if they change my name, then that phone doesn't belong to me anymore. That's what happened with our people and our land. They changed your name, and by changing your name, it disconnected you from the land. All right? And now, because of the doctrine of discovery, they claimed your land. However, we have legal grounds, okay, to step up in our true persona and put in claims for our own land. We have that right because it's ours. It is not theirs. If the land belonged to your parents and it was taken through force, coercion, trickery, all the BS they come with, then that means legally they don't own the land. I hope that is making sense. So family, that's another reason why it's important, okay, if you are indigenous to the Americas, not to allow yourself to continuously live in a life of Black African American, because it makes you homeless, nationless, exiled in your own land. All right? Now, when they came, like I said, we already had laws, which is called the laws of the land. Okay, we already had those laws. We already had tribal police. We had structures. We had that. Don't let them fool you. We had that. We taught them, well, they still, well, we taught them how to build governments and institutions. And they took our laws and injected them in what they call statutes and codes, and therefore calling them laws to govern your life. But those laws are only applicable because you are a citizen. I'm talking about those statutes and codes. They are only applicable because you are their citizen. You see? So that's why certain things don't work for you, because you are under their jurisdiction. Jurisdiction is really just a language. You are in their language. Okay? Now, if you were to go back in your proper persona as the aborigines, the indigenous people of the Americas, like you are, what does that mean? It means that they have to go back to the laws that our ancestors already had so that they could even talk to us. In other words, we are not in their jurisdiction. And you have every right to go back to that. You have every right to go back to that. So you see, again, you have to see the difference between you being in your proper persona and you being misclassified and how you get treated. So when you see people in the street running around, Black Lives Matter, Black Power, there's no power in that. Seriously, there's no power in that. Okay? Now, I'm going to ask you a question. Now, you guys could, if you have any questions, you could put it in the live chat. We good, we live. All right? I can see everything right there, right? So I'm just really trying to show you the importance of why, if you are indigenous to the Americas, you need to go back to being indigenous, all right, into your true identity. Okay. When they came, like I said, they called us Indians. I've already stated that in prior videos. And a lot of the laws are put in place to protect the Indians and their children. Those laws are still on the books. I'm gonna give you I'm gonna give you one typically, right? And one that probably people see YouTube videos and they say don't work, but it works. But let me tell you one of them. Before they came, we moved about our lands freely. We didn't have anything called licenses. Okay, we had the right to cross our borders and travel, move about our land freely. Okay, when they came, they took that out. Well, it's still on the books, but in their statutes and codes, they say that you need a license. Now, what you have to, you see, again, you have to peep the game. You only need a license when you are doing commerce. The United States of America is all about commerce, business. Okay? When you're doing commerce, you need a license. So if you're driving, you need a license. It's all in the verbiage. So if you're driving, you need a license. However, if you're moving about your ancestral land, minding your business, that's your right. You don't need a license for that because there is no exchange of currency or money. You are not doing business. And you see, they know that because that's tribal law. And they have to respect it. They have to respect it. But again, it's the verbiage. From the moment you say, I am driving, then yes, you need a license. I am moving in my ancestral lands. Okay, you don't need a license for that. You have the right to do that. And that's actually a law. So again, I'm showing you the difference between being indigenous, all right, and being a citizen, okay, when you have to comply with their statutes and codes. But don't get me wrong. I'm not saying because you're indigenous, you have to disrespect, their codes. It's about respect. I respect you and you respect me. That's what it's about. Okay. Another thing, take for instance, if somebody were to come to my house, right? And I have 2 young children and they say that what they call, their ACS or whatever. And they say, well, you know what? Somebody said, you're doing this to your children. We coming to take your children. They could do that if you are Black or African American, because you are their citizens and their citizens' children belong to them. You're just the guardian. When you sign that birth certificate and that social security number, that made you a citizen. So you and your children belong to them. You are their citizens. Okay? However, before they came, our ancestors didn't have birth certificates. We didn't have social security numbers. And we have a right to remain that way in our own land. And I'm speaking to the indigenous people now. I'm not talking to their citizens. I'm talking to indigenous people who have been misclassified as Black and African American. So if that were to be the case in my situation, they cannot come to my house and take my children because my children are out of their jurisdiction. And they know that. That's why on their applications, all right, you would see where it have provisions for if the child is an American Indian, because it's a whole different ballgame. So family, what I want you to know is that there is order in the universe and order must be maintained. People say, well, it don't work. They don't respect. No, they respect it. But there is a way that you have to do things. Again, order. There has to be order. Okay? It works, but there have to be order. Take, for instance, if I have a son or a daughter who is in their school, because I have every right, if I so choose, as an American Indian, to put my child in their school. Why? Because when they came, my land was already here. So their school is on my land. This is Indian country. First, you have to know that. The American continent is Indian country. You see? So again, our laws precede their statutes and codes. So if I were to put my child in their school and they say, well, your child have to get a vaccination. No, my child don't have to, because that is not part of my culture. And that they have to respect. However, if you are Black or African American, they could tell you that your child have to and you can't do anything about it. You see the difference? Okay? Another thing they pull with our children is that when our children are in school, parents get calls, oh, well, your child have a behavioral problem and the child is this and that, and they want you to come to the school for a meeting and all, and eventually they want you to put your child on stuff, on these medications, right? That will work, and if you don't do it, then they say you're abandoning or neglecting your child, and they could take your child or children away from you. Again, that's a form of kidnapping to me, as kidnapping indigenous children. However, you are black and you are African American, so they could do that to you. Me, on the other hand, as an American Indian who's in my proper persona, for them to do that to me, that's violating international law. Because my children don't belong to them. My children belong to my nation, my tribe. You see the difference, right? Okay. Another difference is this. If I, and again, I'm speaking for myself, if I am walking down the road and the police feel to harass me, okay, me in my proper persona, they cannot do what they would do to you, to me, because you're an African American and you are black. All right, you are their citizens. And don't get me wrong, I am not saying what they do is moral. I don't want it to come across as that. But I do want you to know that what they do, they have every right to do it because you are their property. And again, please don't misconstrue that for saying that it's moral. It's not moral. Because this has nothing to do with morality. It's about you belong to me, I could do what I want with you. So I hope that makes sense. All right? You are what your ancestors were. So if your ancestors were indigenous, if your ancestors were American Indians, that makes you an American Indian. And a lot of our people seem to be holding on to this black thing as religion. It's like, it's so hard to let go. It's like people who can't let go of Jesus as a real person. You have to let go of being black, because within this construct, all right, it means death in law. It has no respect. It has no regards. Black has no rights. It only have privileges that was allocated to it by the people who own the blackness in you. I hope that makes sense. All right. I believe that indigenous children deserve better. Just because you want to be black and just because you want to be African American, do not allow indigenous children to suffer because you don't want to change. Okay? Because you don't want to honor your ancestors, don't let your children suffer for that. Okay? Because you are not proud of your indigenous land and you want to be somewhere else or think you're from somewhere else, don't let your children suffer because of your ignorance. And please do not take that personal. Okay? Because there is no such thing as an African American. Africa is a continent and America is a continent. So you cannot be two continents in one. How can you be two continents? And black is just a color. Color is not a nationality. So how can you be a color? Okay? Again, it's foolish pride. It is a movement that was set up by the same people who created Black Lives Matter. Okay? The oppressors and the colonizers, they are the ones behind that movement, keeping you, again, taking you away from your indigenous land. Hey, what's up, Julian? And that is the goal, family. That is the gold. Not the gold, the goal. They know you are indigenous to the Americas. And in order for them to take you away from your land, they have to change your identity. So now everything they do to you, it is legal to them. All right? But when they're dealing with you in your proper persona, it's a whole different game. All right? Thank you, Sash. You see, so if you guys have any questions, like I said, the live chat is up and running. I have to step out in a few, so if you have questions, feel free to ask. But I just want you to know, family, our children deserve more than this. Our children deserve more than this. I mean, look at what's happening to our children. All right. So again, I have to make my disclaimer. I am speaking to indigenous peoples, the American aborigines, who have been misclassified as black, African American, Negro, and colored. That's who I'm speaking to. I am not speaking to United States citizens. All right. I'm making my disclaimer here. All right. Because like I said, this is a very thin line to travel and it could be very dangerous. All right. And for people who always hit me up and ask me for paperwork and what to do and all that, listen, I'm going to keep it real with you. All right. There are steps to take, but you being a citizen, I cannot tell you certain things. because I don't know who's emailing me. I don't know if it's a setup, because these people, they have moles, they have agents, and they set you up. And what if I were to say, well, you know what? This is a paper that you need. Fill this out and send this out. And all of a sudden, the FBI is knocking on my door, telling me that I am soliciting their citizens. And I say no, and they pull up an email, say, yeah, you just send that person this. And that's our citizen. Now, I go to jail, and you guys are out here, and guess what? You know how that go, because when you reach out to our people and tell them you need bail, it's hard for them to help you come up with the bail. So I don't want to put myself and my life in that kind of jeopardy. So I like to make my disclaimer that I am speaking to the American Aborigines, the indigenous people of the Americas, who have been misclassified as Black, colored, African American, and Negro. All right, that's who I'm speaking to. So we say, okay, how do you go about renouncing your citizenship? Now, even before I say that, okay, how would I put that? I want to be very diplomatic about this. What you need to realize is this. First, let me reiterate. What makes you indigenous is your bloodline. So if your bloodline runs deep in the Americas and it go even just past 92, then you are indigenous to the Americas. Now, if you are, everything that you are living right now as whoever they labeled you is a form of paper genocide. It's a form of paper genocide. Okay, so what I want you guys to do is this. I want you to, well, not I want you to, I can't tell you what to do, but this is what, let me give you some advice. Go study UNDRIP, UNDRIP. That is the United Nations Declarations on the Rights for Indigenous People. UNDRIP, UNDRIP. Also, what was adopted, I think 2016, I think June 16th, if I'm not sure, but it was last year, was the American Declaration for the Rights of Indigenous People. Now, when Trump got into office, even before he got into office, one of the first bills that he sent to the floor was to repeal, okay, you know, the motion, I think, which was in 1969 somewhere, where the United States became part of the UN. And in my own understanding was he probably was trying to do that so when they do what they do to their citizens, that the international world cannot intervene, because you are personal property. But of course, people were fighting that. But just in case it were to happen, they adopted and implemented what's called the American Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People. So there again, there lies your protection. Nowhere in the verbiage or the language it says as UNDRIP, meaning United Nations Declarations on the Rights of Black people, of African American, of Negro, or colored. It said indigenous people. Again, go look at the American Declarations on the Rights of Indigenous People. It didn't say the American Declaration on the Rights of Black people, Negro people, colored people, or what some of you normally call yourself niggers. You need to stop that. It is not a term of endearment. All right? So it's about being indigenous to your own land. So now I could, address, the sister's question. How do we go about renouncing our citizenship? All right. Seeing that we are indigenous to the Americas, any establishment that's on our land, we have the right to enjoy it. You see, we have the right to enjoy it. Okay. So what you need to do is really correct your information or your status in their system. If you still feel like, you know what, you want to enjoy their so-called United States of American dream. So you have the Social Security Office, they have you as Black or African American, you got to put them on notice. Okay, you have to let them know. Again, all these things, they are notices. They are telling you, they're giving you a notice as to this is who you are. No, it's up to you to rebuttal that and give them a notice and say, this is who I am. I want you to update this in your system. Certain states on driver's license, they have your race. You could go to the Department of Motor Vehicle and let them know who you are and let them change that. And those are some of the steps that you could take. All right. Somebody asked, there's a need to be connected effort to reclaim way to label ourselves in everyday life. Suddenly we started calling ourselves African American and now call ourselves American Aborigines. It says, when asked to label myself on forms, it's sort of what I put with is with a hesitation, if necessary, is black. No, you see, with those boxes, okay, they always want to put you in a box. That's why they, on applications and forms, they have boxes to put you in a box. You create your own box if you feel the need, okay, to state your race and put who you are. Okay, again, you cannot say Black American. There is no such thing as Black people. So, but I can't tell you what to call yourself. I'm just giving you the facts. If you want to be Black, that's on you. You're going to have to deal with the consequences that Black people deal with. All right. So that's one of the ways. Also, there are certain documents that you could send to certain agencies to put them on notice. All right. Again, I can't just blur that out and tell you that. All right. Because like I said, I'm not trying to solicit these people's citizens, but I'm just letting you know that as indigenous people of the Americas, the rights that you have. So I very, very much and strongly suggest you go read UNDRIP, UNDRIP in its entirety, and make sure you get a full understanding of it. Also, the American Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People. Those two documents right there, you study those things. And then once you have done that, you will get a better understanding as to you being the indigenous peoples of the Americas, the rights that you have, the rights that your children have. You have a right to self-governance. Okay, you have a right to practice your own spirituality. All right, we have the right to have our own tribal police because we had that before they came. So they cannot prevent us from having our own community tribal police. But you can't do that because you are their citizens. So I hope you see the difference and you see again what this means. And that's why one of their generals, I have one of the videos, said that moving forward in 2016, 2017, we have to look out for aliens. Now, they're not talking about aliens from Mars and Pluto. We know that. They're talking about the indigenous people that's indigenous to the Americas, and they're calling them aliens. Okay? We are also talking about, he said that we have to be afraid of the tribes. Look out for the tribes. What tribes are they talking about? When they came, they met us with our tribes, and we fought, and we gave them a problem. And they realizing those tribes are resurrecting. So they are telling them, look out for the tribes. So that's why they are going into your communities right now and moving you out, because they don't want you to get a chance to wake up and assemble yourself and go back into your tribal ways. So you have to peep the game as to what's going on. So family, it's time to wake up. Okay, it's time to wake up. I don't know how much I could keep telling you and singing the same song, but you want to get caught up in that conscious community and being Black, and it's a problem. And they know it, but because being indigenous is not popular, it's not generating money, they have to keep with what's generating money, and it's to be Black. I'm just keeping it real. It says, what's the next step after familiarizing yourself with the UNDRIP and American belonging to the Choctaw tribe? Well, you have a choice, sis. You could resurrect your tribe. Again, once you read that document, it will open up your mind, meaning that, you know, you have the right, again, to self-identification. If you want, you could change your name. That's your right, because remember, they gave you a name. You didn't have a choice. You were a minor, but you're still a minor because you're still a child, because, you know, you belong to them. You haven't grown up yet, so they still call you a minority. Okay, so you have that right to self-identification. So to answer your question, you know, those are some of the steps that you could take. All right, if you feel like you still want to use that Christian name that you have, at least let it be known that that Christian name is indigenous. That Christian name is an American Indian. All right, so I hope that answers that question. I choose the other box and then put American Aborigines. My sister puts Tasligi Cherokee, which is what I may, or that it's processed. I appreciate your channel info. Oh, you're welcome. You know, and that's good. American Aborigines, you know what I'm saying? Yes, that's fine. American Indian is also good. And if you know your tribe, put your tribe. Okay, put your tribe. Now, for the people who don't know what tribe you're from, because one thing when everybody start talking about, oh, we from Africa, okay, I know I'm not from Africa, but if you're from Africa, I have a couple of questions for you. For one, Africa is a continent. So my question is, where in Africa are you from? That is the first question. And the second question is, what tribe? And when you ask them that question, all of a sudden they're dumb. They can't speak, but yet still you're telling me you're from Africa. Hmm? And I'm talking to all the conscious people in the conscious community that continuously telling all people they are from Africa. I'm asking all of y'all, the ones y'all subscribe to, you should ask them that. Put me to the test. Ask them, what is their nationality? And hear them say some dumb shit like they're African American. They would never talk about that. You know why? Because like I said, it's not popular. It's not generating income for them. The energy of being black is making money for people. So family, we as the indigenous people, we have to come together. We have to unite. Okay, we have to go back to bartering with each other. Okay, if I have oranges and you have apples, I give you oranges, you give me apples, and we both have oranges and apple. That's what we did before these people came and told us, oh, that's not going to work. We got to give you our money. A worthless piece of paper that our people are going around selling each other out, killing each other for worthless paper. Little do they know, this penny right here is worth more than $1 paper because it has value. It is metal. You see? But because you were taught and indoctrinated and brainwashed into thinking the paper has value, you are killing your brothers and sisters for it. You are selling them out for it. It has no value. All right? And that is the honest truth. So there's only so much, again, I could say without stepping out of bounds. And what I mean by that is, I don't want it to come across as if I'm soliciting the United States citizens. So I am speaking to indigenous peoples. I like to make that, you know, a statement. No, people have asked me, I am not an American citizen. No, I don't want to be, because my ancestors were not. So I want to be what my ancestors were, American Aborigines, the indigenous people of the Americas. That's who I am. All right. My ID that I walk around with is my nation ID with my tribal name. Okay. And that's what I walk around with. Okay. Now, if you so choose, like I said, to, I think, for instance, you have your job, you could still keep your job because, yeah, you have to pay your rent. You have to pay your bills, you know, so, but however, you could go and start correcting, you know, updating your identity as to who you truly are in terms of your race and your culture, and let your children know the truth, man. You know, let your children know the truth and stop living the lie. Stop living the lie, because, and I want you guys to, you know, I would like for you guys to check something out. You don't have to go buy the dictionary to see it. Go online and put in American, definition of American, Noah 1828 dictionary, and you would see what comes up. Okay, a definition of American in Noah English Webster 1828 dictionary. They are telling you who you are, but it also says that it is now being used for the descendants of the Europeans. So they are telling you they took your place. So now that you know what it is, it's time for you to step back in your proper persona. Okay, step back into your proper persona and stop being abused. Stop being used. Because this is the only way this is going to work for you. Because right now you are homeless. You are a nationless people. Okay, when you are Black, African American, okay, you are nationless. That means you have no home. So they could abuse you in the streets. They could pick you up and take you anywhere. Literally, you are the alien. Literally, in a literal sense, because you don't belong, because you have accepted that. All right? So again, I know this may not be popular, but it's okay. The 1, 2, or 3 that I could really see or let them see what it is, man, my job will be done. Okay? My job will be done, because that's what I'm about. My ancestors sent me here for a mission and for a reason. All right? So that's why I'm doing what they brought me here to do. All right? So if nobody else have any questions, I'm going to end the call. I just wanted to, give you guys some insight on that. You guys, I always leave my email in the link. If it's not in that link, then, I'll try to put it in the description later. Okay, send me an inbox, and, if you want to move forward as to, what you need to do, you know what I'm saying? Then my first thing would be, know that you are indigenous. What makes me indigenous? My blood, my ancestry, okay? My people that have been here since before 1492 and beyond. So that's why I'm indigenous. That's the first step. You have to know that. You have to feel it in your heart, okay? You can't say you are African American and say you're indigenous. Okay, you can't say you're black and say you're indigenous. All right, you can't say that. It doesn't, the two don't go together. You either got to be either or, but know that there are consequences for being one or for being the other. And that's what you got to know. All right, your protection lies under being who your ancestors were before they came. Internationally, there are laws to protect indigenous people, especially women and children. Oh, they don't play with that. They don't play with that. So go back into your tribal natures, go back into your indigenous natures, and know that you are indigenous to the Americas. All right. So family, once again, if there are no more questions, I'm going to end this video. I thank you guys again for, always tuning in. And, I'll continue to do what I'm doing, continue to, bring in the information. I'll give you guys, again, like I said, after this video, maybe later, I'll put my email in the description, so you guys could send me email. And family, once again, like I said, support the GoFundMe. It keeps me going to do all the research and the printing of the papers and all that stuff I got to do. You know what I mean? So support. And, we have to learn to start supporting each other, because that's the only way it's going to work. I mean, if you look around, it's like every other ethnic group support their own. But when it comes to us, we are always having a problem with it. And sometimes everything that glitter is not gold. You see, their goal is to make you see being black and being African American glitter. You see, they want you to see that so it could take you away from who you truly are. But know that the riches is going back to being indigenous, because that land belongs to us. But you being black and African American, you can't claim your land because it wasn't theirs. It wasn't an African American or black people owned in the first place. It was the aborigines, when they came, they met, that they coined Indians. And now all those protections they allied and codified in law under American Indian. All right. So I hope that was good, some good insight. Let your children know who they are. Go to their schools. Let the schools know that your children are American Indian children. They cannot tell you who you are. What can you prove it? No. Can you prove that you belong here? You know what I mean? So don't let anybody intimidate you. All right. If anybody have anything to prove, they do, not you. This is your land. It's our land. So you have to know that. All right. Stop living your life in fear, man. It's time we step up as the indigenous people and let people know that we are here. Okay. We are not extinct. All right. We are no longer going to live under your misclassifications. All right. Due to paper genocide. We are no longer going to live that way. All right. So peace and love. Thanks for your time. And I'm going to end this video. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Be safe if you go out. Don't drink too much. All right. Don't poison the system. All right. Because your body's a temple. So take care of yourselves. Love yourselves. Share the information. Again, if you need some more in-depth, information, send me an email, because it's only so much I could put out there in the public, all right, without going overboard. Okay, and yeah, that's about it. So enjoy the rest of your weekend and be safe. I love you guys, man, for real. Peace and love.